Happy Thanksgiving, everyone, from our NewsNation headquarters in America's heartland. It's time for news for all America. I'm Nick Smith. Markie and Adrienne are off today, but we're sending them Thanksgiving greetings. Thank you for joining us. Let's take a look at Pensacola, Florida, courtesy of EarthCam. It's a little quiet right now, but definitely somewhere I would not mind being this morning. Look at that sun over there. Oh, yeah, glistening across the water. That's beautiful. The 4-day ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war and the release of some 50 women and children are now delayed until tomorrow. The pause in fighting was supposed to begin overnight with hostages with the Red Cross in about an hour from now. Robert Sherman is live in Tel Aviv with more on the changing terms of this agreement. Robert.
Hey there, Nick. The Israelis saying that timeline has effectively been pushed back. They believe that we'll start to see the wheels turning in regards to a hostage release tomorrow. Initially, that was supposed to be taking place today. In terms of the parameters of the agreement, so far, no changes there that we've heard of. An estimated 50 women and children will be released over the 4 days of a pause that has been agreed to, as well as the release of Palestinian prisoners. But you talk to people here on the ground in Israel, there is this skeptical optimism that is in the air here. People holding this belief that they'll believe that this deal is legit and true when they see it with their own eyes.
About the delay in the prisoner release, I think when you are making a deal with Hamas, you should not expect everything to go by the plan, and you should expect surprises, but we are prepared for it. And I believe that over time, they will be released.
The Israelis say the ground operation will continue until that pause takes effect. The past 24 hours, they've been focusing on exposing and locating tunnel shafts. This one here in the area of Al-Shifa Hospital. Meanwhile, as a part of the deal, aid will be allowed inside the Gaza Strip. Some in Gaza saying right now they don't have access to food or water.
We call on donor countries, friendly countries, and the international community to increase their aid to the Palestinian people, because we need aid. We need more than just flour. We need basic supplies and food.
We're anticipating hundreds of trucks filled with humanitarian aid will be allowed inside Gaza as a part of this agreement. Nick?
Robert Sherman live in Israel. Robert, thank you so much. As Israel prepares to receive its hostages and release Palestinian prisoners tomorrow, IDF spokesperson Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner joined me earlier this morning to talk about the military preparations.
The deal is still being negotiated. Apparently, the IDF is waiting for instructions regarding our hold on fire, and we will be prepared to implement any instructions that the government gives us. Of course, it is a challenging situation, but we are pursuing and continue to pursue Hamas during in the last 24 hours and looking forward until their instructions to hold our fire comes through. The Hamas continue to challenge us on the battleground, and we continue to take out their positions one at a time, every location, their tunnels, their weapons capabilities, their command control capabilities. The war is moving forward.
Colonel Lerner, I have to ask you this. How do you separate your role as a military leader and a citizen yourself? I can only imagine the frustration that you get from those who have family members who have been taken hostage, who want you to do more, and you can only share X amount of information. How do you balance that?
Nick, we are all in this together. Israel woke up on the 7th of October in this devastating reality. And we've seen society rally around the IDF. I myself, as a reservist, had no question about the need to report for duty. And indeed, we have to be transparent, but we also need to safeguard our forces on one hand, but also utilize our efforts in order to bring the hostages home, every last one of them. And we can't do anything that could jeopardize that, but because just being too open could put that in risk. The hostages remain a national priority, and this is why the IDF is willing, perhaps even at a threat to our forces, to hold our fire in order to bring some 50 people, women and children, home to their loved ones. This is these are heart-wrenching days for everyone in Israel, servicemen and women, and the families, of course. But the entire nation is looking forward to this development. It could be good. It could also be bad.
And Colonel Lerner, I know that there's much disagreement even over the ceasefire in order to get hostages back. How is the IDF planning for a hostage exchange? Will all of the hostages be released at once in one particular area, or will it happen in a series of exchanges? And where will it happen?
So the details of the exchange have been ironed out in the negotiations, not with the military, but on our diplomatic efforts that are ongoing between Israel, the Qataris, with the assistance of the US and Egypt. We are grateful for everybody that is contributing this, because everybody has an interest in order to bring the hostages home. I don't want to go into specifics. Obviously, there's operational concerns of the release process. But it does appear that it's supposed to be over the course of several days in installments, and we need to be utilizing our force in order to assist in the release of the hostages, of those women and children that need to be brought home.
And last hour, I spoke with a woman named Abby Owen, who had 5 family members taken hostage on October 7th. Her grandmother and teenage niece were found dead in Gaza. She talked about the developing hostage deal as she awaits the safe return of her son-in-law and his 2 other children.
47 days, every day felt like a week. And in the last 2 days, every hour feels like a year. I think we have a knot in our stomach, and it feels like it's the first real diplomatic breakthrough in the situation. But until we get the first release of the first 10, I don't think anyone is going to believe that this is real.
And I know that we're talking about the children that we just mentioned in your own family, and we know that this deal will free at least 50 women and children. Do you have any hope that they will be among those who are freed?
I do. I mean, they fit within the age range. They would be considered children. A lot of lists have been circulated, but of course, nothing is concrete. And I really think that until they are in Israel and recognized by Israeli officials, that none of us can believe that they have been actually released.
You know, Ms. Owen, what I want to do, too, is I want to make sure that we recognize the fact that it's more than just names on a sheet of paper. We're talking about lives, your family members, your loved ones, and I never want that to be lost in the story that we cover. But can you just tell us a little bit about them as individuals? Sure. and how, and just, this is your family.
Yeah, of course. Erez is the youngest. He is 12, the same age as my son. He actually celebrated his birthday in captivity. He is an outdoor kid. He rides horses and bikes and builds with Legos and plays the trumpet. His sister Sahar, 16, she's going to graduate high school next year. She's an artist. She plays the bass. She's best friends with her older sister. Their father, Ofer, he's the father of 4, and he's a carpenter, and he's funny. And he's a really big bike rider. He's really big in the biking community. And they're all from Kibbutz Nir Oz, which is one of the kibbutzim that was brutalized on October 7th. More than 100 people were murdered or taken hostage. And so we just want them home safely. We want them here and whole, one piece, healthy, to try to help them rebuild.
And Abby, we talk about also how I said in the intro to you that this is an unenviable position, because this is not what you want to do. You don't want to sit here talking about the freeing of hostages. And I feel as though sometimes you're put in the uncomfortable position also of speaking for an entire community. And I know that everyone feels differently. But can you talk to me about how you feel about the likelihood now that a bond there between you and all of the other families are going through in this month and a half of uncertainty? This deal is for some, but not all will be released. Right. What are the conversations like between some of those who know that their family members may not be among them?
Right. I saw that you had John on before this, Hirsch's father, and we didn't know each other 7 weeks ago, and now we are family. And I know that Hirsch would not be part of this deal, and it weighs heavy on all of our hearts. I think there is fear about what would come if the 50 were released and the close to 200 weren't. But that being said, we've seen 4 released so far and 1 rescued, and every single person that comes home is celebrated.
Earlier this morning, a U.S. warship, the USS Thomas Hudner, shot down attack drones over the Red Sea. Officials say the guided missile destroyer was on patrol when it fired on the drones launched from a Houthi-controlled area in Yemen. U.S. Central Command says the ship was not the Houthis' target. The Iran-backed rebels said it sent a batch of long-range ballistic missiles and drones towards Israel. And breaking overnight, the town of Livingston, Kentucky, ordered to evacuate after a train derailed, spilling chemicals. At least 16 cars derailed Wednesday. 2 of them were carrying sulfur and caught fire. It is believed that sulfur dioxide is being released into the air, which can cause respiratory problems. 1 crew member was treated for minor injuries. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear declared a state of emergency, and train company CSX is covering the cost of hotel rooms and food for those who have been affected. In a statement, CSX says, "We will work together with local authorities to secure the area, and safety is our top priority as we deploy and develop a recovery plan." Scary moments yesterday at the U.S.-Canadian border when a car went airborne, crashing into a border patrol booth. What started off as an investigation into a possible act of terror has now changed into a basic car crash investigation. Our Evan Lambert is live in Buffalo with the latest. Evan, I can tell you that when this news broke in the newsroom, we were working to figure out the latest, and we were relieved to learn that this was not tied to terror.
Nick, definitely a lot of relief. The FBI saying that they are finished their on-scene portion of their investigation here at the Rainbow Bridge. That's the bridge that connects the U.S. to Canada. It is still closed, as you can see behind me. Important part of that FBI statement late last night is that in the search of this scene, they say they didn't find any, quote, explosive materials, also no nexus to terrorism. And that is important given all the concerns that we've had in this heightened alert state because of the war in Israel. Take a look again at this video. This is another angle of it. Look in the top of your screen. You can see that car just going extremely fast toward those inspection booths there. It actually hits something, goes airborne, and then bursts into a fireball after hitting one of the inspection booths. We know that the fireball killed the 2 people inside the car. It also caused some minor injuries to a Customs and Border Protection worker. We're told that worker is now out of the hospital. Governor Kathy Hochul revealing last night that the deceased driver and their passenger, who have not been identified at this hour, are believed to be from the Buffalo area. Listen to a witness describing this scene yesterday.
All of a sudden, he went up in the air, and then it was a ball of fire like 30, 40 feet high. I've never seen anything like it. It was really incredible.
The FBI turning the investigation over to the local police, who will investigate the crash portion of this. We have not heard any update from Niagara Falls Police on that this morning. There were 3 other bridges in this area that were closed out of an abundance of caution. They have since reopened. Nick?
Thank you so much for that, and happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. American intelligence reportedly stopped a plan hatched by the Indian government to kill a Sikh separatist here on U.S. soil. The White House said on Wednesday it raised the issue, quote, at the senior-most levels with Indian government. The target was a dual American-Canadian citizen and general counsel of Sikhs for Justice. He was labeled as a terrorist by India 3 years ago for his support of a separate Sikh state called Khalistan. News of the plot comes 2 months after Canadian officials said there were credible allegations linking India to the murder of another Sikh separatist leader near Vancouver. We're going to go live to Qatar right now. We have breaking news right now with the latest on this negotiation. Take a listen.
For you right now, and I'll be taking questions. Ahmed.
من سيقوم بالإشراف على تنفيذ الهدنة في قطاع غزة؟
طبعا أحمد، كما تعلم أن الطرفين لديهم التزام عالي حسب تقديرنا بهذه الاتفاقية أو بهذا الاتفاق، وعليه فأن نحن نثق بأن هناك اهتمام من قبل الطرفين في هذا الأمر، ونحن كوسيط.
Right now you're listening to the Qatari Foreign Minister's spokesperson holding a press conference on the hostages. As you know, Qatar has been central in the negotiation process between both Hamas and Israel in the freeing of hostages and a pause in the possible attack that Israel has launched on Hamas. Israel has said that they are committed to rooting out Hamas, and we're listening in on this press conference, hopefully, to hear more questions posed to that spokesperson.
Information for security reasons, and as we've always said, our main objective here is the safety of the hostages, so we can't disclose a lot of information regarding the routes they will be going through, but we will be focusing on making sure that they get there safely through making sure that through our operations room, that will work with both the Red Cross and parties of the conflict, that all information is in real time and everybody is getting the information the right way so we can move them safely from one place to another.
And a follow-up question, if I can.
Yeah.
Are you mediating a separate track with Hamas for the release of non-Israelis, specifically Americans, and are there Americans on the list?
The criteria on which to prioritize the hostages was purely humanitarian, as you know, and our focus was on getting the women and children out of harm's way as soon as possible, which is basically what we are doing within this agreement. And we will be going through, hopefully, that the momentum carried by this deal would help us get everybody out in time, and at the same time, of course, lessen the hardship of the people in Gaza through the humanitarian pause that is taking place.
Tomorrow at 7 a.m. is going to be the time when we should also expect aid delivered into Gaza. A follow-up question, if you don't mind. Could this be the opportunity to further expand this deal into something bigger that could pave the way for a major settlement?
As we talked about, the humanitarian aid is an integral part of this deal. The aid will start going in within, of course, the CUOMO period that will start at 7 a.m. So we are expecting aid to go in as soon as possible from Rafah crossing. You know that the aid has been there, in coordination with the Egyptians and all the international donors. So it's going to be coming in through the crossing as soon as we have a period of calm where, of course, even the aid workers would be safe in going in. It would be a fraction of the need in Gaza. The need is so great in Gaza that no matter how much aid you are going to bring in, there will be certainly more need for aid. But we are hoping to bring in as much as possible within the confines of the deal. And of course, our aim is for this deal to end with a lasting truce. Right now, of course, the confines of this deal are these 4 days that are subject to a second phase and following phases of expanding the pause through the formula of getting more hostages out and therefore getting more time for the pause. We are hoping that momentum will carry and that we would find this would open the door for further and more deep negotiations towards an end to this violence. Please.
سؤال يتعلق بوقف الأعمال القتالية وإطلاق النار. هل هناك أي تفاصيل تتعلق بهذا الموضوع خلال الأيام الأربعة لتنفيذ بروتوكول؟
طبعا تم الاتفاق على أن يتم هناك وقف كامل لإطلاق النار خلال هذه الفترة بما يتضمن طبعا سواء من الجو أو الأرض، وما نتأمل طبعا أن لا يكون هناك أي خروقات، وهذا ما التزم به الجانبان.
Once again, you're listening to a Qatari official talk about the latest stages in the negotiation process. As you know, Qatar has been essential in the negotiation between Hamas and Israel as part of freeing those hostages. We're waiting for more questions in English, and we will, of course, jump in. We will, of course, continue to follow this and bring you the latest as this moves forward. Again, Qatari officials asking for the latest information and answering questions about the 4-day pause, hoping that it will lead to an extended period of time with what he said would be a lasting truce between Israel and Hamas. A disgraced Alabama priest who fled the U.S. over the summer with a teenage girl is now a married man. How the Archdiocese is responding to the news he and the former high school student are husband and wife. And just because your teams are rivals, it doesn't mean you can't be good humans. How a lost wedding ring led a Jets fan on a years-long adventure to find its owner, even if he does root for the Bills.
Hello, I'm A1C Derek Marks, stationed from Ramstein Air Force Base. I would like to give a shout out to my family back home from Beaumont, Texas.
The NewsNation Republican primary debate, December 6th on NewsNation.
Lactate is 100% real milk, just without the lactose. Delicious, too.
Just ask my old friend Kevin.
Nothing like enjoying a cold one while watching the game. Who's winning?
We are, my friend. We are.
iPhone 15 Pro, your husband deserves it.
Carolers, to tell me you want a new iPhone? A better plan is Verizon.
Black Friday starts now. Turn any iPhone in any condition into a new iPhone 15 Pro with titanium and iPad and Apple Watch SE all on us. Only on Verizon.
This is our last chance to help save thousands of Holocaust survivors who are suffering in the former Soviet Union today. The needs that these forgotten Jews have are something beyond anything you can imagine.
Have you eaten this morning?
I ate the carrot, so I ate half of it yesterday, and this is what she ate in 2 days, 1 carrot. Please pray for me.
The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews began this ministry to help elderly Jews living in horrible poverty around the world. We urgently need your gift of $25 now to help provide one survival food box with all of the foods they critically need for their diet for 1 month. When you call right now, your gift's impact will be doubled to help save lives.
I have a tremendous love for Israel and the Jewish people. This is why I'm partnering with the fellowship. It gives me a way to authentically bless Jewish people in need around the world.
I believe in God, but I sometimes feel maybe He forgot me. Perhaps you could tell my story, and I would find a matching soul that would understand. I face hunger again.
Please don't delay. Call, scan, or go online now to help rush one survival food box to a Holocaust survivor. When you call right now, your gift's impact will be doubled to help save lives.
This is what God wants from us. Just feed the hungry.
If you hear God's voice, I'm asking you to act now. Do it when it's on your heart. I pray that they'll know in their final months that they're not alone.
If your thyroid eye disease was diagnosed a long, long time ago, you may think your eyes will be bulging forever, like a never-ending curse that can't be broken. But even if you've been told it's too late, treating your thyroid eye disease may still be possible, and a new day is within sight. Learn how you could give your eyes a fresh start at stilltreatted.com.
America, a nation of doers, dreamers, and fighters. And this great nation deserves a news network that doesn't take sides, but instead is built to bring us back together.
NewsNation's not going anywhere.
NewsNation is here to tell the story of all Americans without the partisan agendas, with respect for all of us. See why America's fastest growing cable news network is NewsNation, news for all America.
We're coming back to breaking news right now. Right now, you're looking at a spokesperson, an official from Qatar, part of the negotiation process between Israel and Hamas. We have learned that 13 women and children will be among those to be released. That will begin tomorrow, midnight, Eastern time here in the United States. 13 women and children among those to be released. We are listening in to see if we can learn more. Let's take a listen. Okay, we've been going back and forth simply because he's been going back and forth between English and Arabic answering questions. We will once again continue to follow this and get the latest information. We do know that 13 women and children will be released. The spokesperson saying that they're hoping that this is part of a process that will lead to more deals and a momentum of deal negotiation, were his exact words, momentum of deal negotiation. And again, a 4-day pause, hopefully beginning tomorrow. Joining us now is Lester Munson, the co-head of the international practice at BGR Group. Israel is willing to extend the ceasefire 1 day for every additional 10 hostages released. Is there an indication that Hamas will take them up on that exchange? Because I know, like me, you're listening to this press conference as well.
Well, I think we've got a long way to go to build
trust, and I use that term delicately, between the two sides here. There's not going to be real trust, but can they reach agreement on these important logistical details? There's a long way to go. We have several hours before the ceasefire will begin, and then a little bit further, apparently, until the initial hostages will be released. I hope everyone is considering this with great caution. These are very difficult negotiations. We should be, I think, not very optimistic that everything is going to work out in the best way possible. This has already been a pretty grim situation. So any steps forward are good news, but we should be realistic about what is possible here.
Mr. Munson, Qatar has been central in the negotiation process with all of this. In fact, this is the first time we're actually seeing one of the spokespeople actually talk about what they're hoping the plan to be. And we have to rely on them to actually be this negotiating peg between the two. This deal will return at least 50 of the roughly 200 plus Hamas hostages eventually, we're hoping. Right now, we know that 13 women and children are set to be released. Given how long it took to negotiate this part of the deal, is it fair to suspect when and if the other remaining hostages may be freed?
Yeah, again, I think we need to keep our expectations in check. We still have a long way to go, even before the initial 13 hostages are released, much less the 50 contemplated in this initial agreement between what is, effectively Israel and Hamas. Qatar has played an important role here. So has the United States. I would say we need to give a lot of credit to President Biden and Secretary Blinken for working so very hard on this. Of course, there are Americans who are being held hostage by Hamas in Gaza. So there's very much an American interest in resolving the situation as quickly as possible. But again, we also have to remember there's a military context here. Israel is seeking to eliminate Hamas as a threat to its people. That is in the background of all of this. And at the end of the day, that is going to be a big determinant in what is possible here.
Again, I know that you and I are both watching this press conference. Once he starts to answer a few questions in English, I'll dip back in and I'll come back to you. The Israel government, like you said, is set on eliminating Hamas. How could that stance impact future negotiations?
They will be, as I said.
Well, it's absolutely going to impact future negotiations. It's impacted them so far. Israel has two very different goals. One is to eliminate Hamas as a threat. The other is to get all of the hostages out of the clutches of Hamas. It is very difficult to do those two things at the same time. We've already gotten some bad news a few days ago when two of the folks we thought were hostages ended up having already been killed. So again, expectations should be low here. This is a really fraught situation, very emotional, very difficult.
Mr. Munson, let's listen in one more time, and I'll get you to respond on the other side of what we're hearing the spokesperson talk about right now.
Becky Anderson from CNN. What would constitute a break in this truce, a breaking of this truce? We're talking about a truce on the ground and as I understand it, in the air. So can you just describe what will be seen as a breakdown in that?
So I don't think I can get into the technicalities, tactically on the ground. Of course, this is to be handled by the people who are there on the ground. But what I can tell you is that the agreement is about full cessation of hostilities within the 4 days. So obviously, any resumption of hostilities of any kind would be a breach. And I think it's very important that lines of communication remain open, so that any possible breach, however it is defined, is communicated immediately to both sides, and there is a way to walk back from it and make sure that we continue with yes.
Can I just ask a second question here? Can you just give us some sense about why we have seen delays? Has it been that Hamas or Israel has made any further demands further to what was in the proposal that was agreed upon 24 hours ago? And are you expecting any further delays?
We are hoping that we don't see any delays, and I think we've reached a point now where everything is in place and we are ready to go on the ground. So we are hopeful that, as I told you, by 7 a.m. tomorrow, everything will stop and we'll have the beginning of the humanitarian truce or pause. When it comes to what delays, what were the reasons of the delays, I can tell you that the discussions over the details and the schematics of how this will happen were very difficult and very detailed, because we wanted, as I said, to make sure that nothing would cause harm in the process of getting the hostages out, but also that the parameters of the agreement are agreed upon in the operational sense between both sides, and that took a lot of discussions between both sides. But we are happy to report that the discussions happened in a very positive environment where both sides showed their commitment to the agreement itself.
Sorry, any further demands?
I am not aware of any further demands that resulted in the delay, but as I told you, the agreement is still as it stands and as it was agreed upon from day one.
Thank you.
معنية بهذه الهدنة وتشملها.
Joining me once again is Lester Munson. Mr. Munson, you were hearing Dr. Ansari talk about that there would be a pause tomorrow at 7 a.m. of hostile activities so that humanitarian aid could get in and so that those 13 women and children could be released by Hamas. But also he talked about, one of the questions was, what was the pause? Why was there a reason in the delay? Was there a demand for more? And he couldn't necessarily speak to that, which goes back to your point of how Hamas can't necessarily be trusted to follow through on what they say. Could this temporary ceasefire give Hamas a strategic advantage over Israeli forces?
Well, I think Hamas is certainly trying to use this, whatever ceasefire occurs, as a way to gain military advantage. Israel, of course, will be very concerned about that. In addition, on the humanitarian aid situation, those are very difficult negotiations as well. Hamas in the past has used humanitarian aid for its own military ends. It's not necessarily giving that assistance to the people who are most in need. It is diverting gas and other things to its military forces. So there's a lot of assurances that need to be built into this, and I think that's what the Qatari spokesman is talking about here when he says there's a lot of arrangements that need to be made. There are the method in which aid is delivered, the timing, the situation of where the hostages will be released and to whom. All of these things are critically important and, of course, happen in the context of a very difficult and fraught military situation between Israel and Hamas.
And Mr. Munson, you just talked about that, how all of this has to happen in that fraught situation. The Dr. Ansari, the spokesperson there, definitely said that that pause would happen to make sure that even the aid going in and that the aid workers would also be safe. Is the relationship clearly between Qatar and Hamas one that would not be violated? Because we do know that both the United States and Hamas have interest in Qatar. So is it likely that Hamas would not violate that disagreement once Qatar said, hey, we need to make sure that aid gets into this area safely to those who need it most? They can safely assure to others and aid workers going in that they will be safe.
It's an excellent question. Qatar has been a go-between between a lot of the different parties in the Middle East that are, have adversarial relationships. At the center of all of this that we haven't even mentioned yet is the nation of Iran. Iran is a big supporter of Hamas. Iran was almost certainly involved in the planning of the attacks on Israel in early October. Iran has not been mentioned in this. Qatar is a country that has good relationship with Iran. Not many countries fall into that category. Can Qatar be relied upon? It's a good question. They've received praise from both the Israeli government and the American government. I take that very seriously. So I think Qatar's been a good interlocutor here. Remember, on the ground in Gaza, it's not just Hamas that holds hostages. We have reports that Palestinian Islamic Jihad, another terrorist group, also has hostages. There may even be Israeli and other hostages being held by local criminal gangs. So there's quite a complex situation on the ground.
Lester Munson, let's listen in once again.
A good level of commitment over the agreement itself. The details hashed out in the executive plan of this agreement are very sound and very robust, and we are hoping that these 4 days would work as a proof of concept for further de-escalation measures, including extending this humanitarian pause, but also getting to a more sustainable truce in Gaza. Of course, I have to remind everybody, and I'm sure that all of you know this, in covering other conflicts around the world, these are not set in stone. They are not completely guaranteed. Anything can happen on the ground. But we are confident that with the signatories of the agreement and the international and regional partners who are working with us on this, that everybody is highly committed for the success of this humanitarian pause, and it actually constitutes the first, glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel of this crisis, and this is why we needed to succeed, and we are hoping and working towards it succeeding. The operation room run from here in Doha. The main purpose of having this operation room is to make sure that information is relayed in real time, and that any issue that comes up can be dealt with immediately and not allow it to escalate and in a way that would harm would make the whole deal collapse. Stephen?
One of the complications of the past 24 hours seems to have been these lists of the small batch for each day. So you've received the list for the first batch. Do you expect there to be similar complications and contentiousness around setting the list each day? And is there a specific time that's been set each day for, okay, the list needs to be set for the next day at, whatever it is, 5 p.m. the day before? And also, I didn't quite catch the response on the drone surveillance. We understand that Israeli drone surveillance won't be happening during a certain part of the day to allow for the hostage handover to happen. Is it just Israeli surveillance? Because we also understand that the Americans and maybe some of the Europeans are also running drones in the area.
Okay, so regarding the lists that are going out every day, it's a day-by-day process. We'll be receiving the lists every day and handing them over on the Israeli side to the Mossad, and they will handle the list from their side also, so we can give it to the other side. Whenever we have both lists confirmed, this is where we can begin, with the process of getting the people out. But there's an agreement on the time intervals, so there will be a group each day released, and that of course is, as I said, it's pending the list coming in. But obviously, as we have laid out the timeline in the operational plan, it should go, without necessarily any fault in getting the lists through. Our teams are working day and night. I can tell you, I've been liaising with the team as late as 2 a.m. Yesterday, and as early as 4 a.m. Today. They are working on this to make sure that everything happens as quickly as possible. Obviously, it is in nobody's interest to delay the beginning of this agreement and the implementation of the humanitarian truce. Every moment that goes by is translated into a life lost, and therefore it is very important for us to do it. But we need to do it the right way. We need to do it in a way that would guarantee the safety of the hostages and the success of the truce itself and the sustainability of the truce. Yes, Becky?
Can I just confirm, are all of those whose names are on the list alive?
Those who will be released, yes. We have confirmation that those who will be released are all in good health. Yeah. Andrew?
Thank you. Has beyond this first group of 50 hostages or so that we expect to be released in this first 4 days, has Hamas provided you a more comprehensive list of the hostages that they do have? Have they gathered more hostages than 50? How many hostages do we expect there are alive in Gaza now?
Okay, Andrew, I can't comment on the numbers right now because we don't have information, verifiable information over the hostages and their status at the moment. I can tell you that one of the things that we are looking to happen during the 4 days of pause is to collect more information over the hostages, those who we have been told are not all with Hamas, and to get all the numbers, to get all the information. That would help in a second wave that we are hoping by the 4th day we'd have an agreement in place to release more hostages and thereby extend the pause in Gaza. I forgot to answer the question, Stephen, on the drones. So I'll tell you, as you rightly mentioned, there will be a period of time where the skies will be clear, and that would allow for the hostage release to happen in a safe environment. As you might imagine, in the first iteration of this, when the mediation secured the release of two American ladies. One of the main challenges was, of course, the sounds that are coming in, the drones flying over or whatever that might be mistook for an attack at the time. So, of course, we need to make sure that the movement happens in a very safe environment, so it doesn't cause any problems with the hostage release. Yes, so clear skies.
يتعلق بموضوع جدلية الصليب الأحمر وهل سيقوم بزيارة المحتجزين لدى حركة حماس. السؤال الثاني يتعلق بحركة
Lester Munson, once again, co-head international practice for BGR Group and senior fellow at National Security Institute, joining me once again to talk about what we just heard. Wow. That was a lot of information. Mr. Munson, one of the first things that just jumped out at me is that it was clear that he said this is a proof of concept. He talked about this again as Dr. Ansari, the spokesperson there out of Qatar, talking about this deal. He's like, we need this to go forward so that more can eventually be released. It definitely appears to me that they believe that they can get Hamas to agree to their word. But one of the things that jumped out to me, Mr. Munson, I want you to respond to this for me if you can. One of the reporters asked about the fact that there would not be any drones or anybody spying on where these hostages may be released. I cannot believe that if we have an opportunity to follow Hamas, or Israel, excuse me, has an opportunity to follow Hamas and their layer of where they may be hiding, that they would not use that information. Is this a normal type of practice when one negotiates a hostage release?
Well, this is all relatively new, right? The technology of warfare is changing constantly. Drones are a much more important part of conflict than they used to be. Drones can be used for both offensive purposes and for surveillance. So this is an understandable limitation, I suppose. There are other means of monitoring the hostages and Hamas activities. I suspect that Israel and its friends and allies, including the United States, are using other technical means to monitor what is happening here. The drone question is perhaps something of a concern of both sides. Remember, Hamas has drones also. Iran, its major backer, big producer of combat drones. So I think this is simply reflective of the reality of armed conflict today.
And as he goes back to English, I want to peek in one more time because I do want to get your response on what some of the biggest takeaways were for you. Let's listen in again, Mr. Munson.
When it comes to the need to expand this into more of an extended truce that could pave the way to a settlement between the Israelis and Hamas?
We have been in constant contact with all our regional and international partners over this, including Iran. The Iranian foreign minister has been in Doha 2 times already, and this will be his 3rd visit to Doha. We have discussed with the Iranians the prospects of regional spillover of this conflict, and we have made sure that we relate to all our partners in the region the complexities that would result from any regional spillover and the need for us all to work together to make sure that this conflict is contained and that we work together also to walk back from the 7th of October into a return to peace in the region. And therefore, we work with everybody, including the Iranians, to make sure that these messages get across. Becky?
Sorry, can I just confirm again? The full list of 50 hostages, has that been handed over to you and then you have the 13 names to be released tomorrow? Or have you just got the list of 13 for Friday release?
The lists exchanged today were of those who will be exchanged tomorrow within the agreement, and every day will include lists of the day itself.
Because as I understood it, you were anticipating, as part of the agreement, getting the full list of 50 hostages being held by Hamas.
Yeah, we will be getting more information over all of them and those who are not part of this deal within the course of the 4 days. But right now, the lists that are being exchanged with both sides are the list of the day.
And one other question to you, if you don't mind. Benjamin Netanyahu was very keen to point out that the US president had played a significant part in upping the number of hostages who would be released and lowering the cost of those releases to the Israelis. Can you just comment on the role that the US president has played?
Yes, I can't testify to what the the Prime Minister has mentioned. What I can tell you is that we are working very closely with the United States over this, and as you know, we had various delegations from the U.S. administration come here, the last of which was Brett McGurk, and before that, of course, Secretary Blinken, and we have been in constant contact. You know, President Biden has been calling on His Highness the Emir, and we had constant calls between both sides to make sure that we work together on this, and we appreciate, of course, the work done by the United States to make sure that the deal comes to fruition, and we continue to work with the United States over this. I can't speak of the details of how the role of the United States was formulated, but I can tell you that, of course, with the communication that's taking place all across the board, the Americans were very instrumental, especially in working with Israel over the details of the deal. Salaam.
بالنسبة للمساعدات هل تم
Once again, joining me is Lester Munson, co-head of international practice at BGR Group and senior fellow at National Security Institute. You've had a chance to hear Dr. Ansari answer a lot of those questions about the hostages and this pause in military action so the humanitarian aid can get into Gaza. What have been some of your key takeaways?
Well, a couple of things. One, it's very unclear what's going to happen after these initial 13 hostages are released. It's not clear. Qatar has the list of 50, the full amount that's evidently part of this agreement, much less the other up to 200 or more hostages that are still being held in Gaza. So there's a lot of information that still needs to be gathered. There's a long road here to all of this being fully resolved. And I think it's important we just hold in our hearts and our heads that this is very preliminary, very difficult, and we should keep our expectations for good news pretty low here. It's a tough message on Thanksgiving for Americans. There are Americans being held there. The other thing I would note about what Dr. Ansari was saying is the role of Iran. He talked about Iran being included in their conversations. The root cause of much of this trouble is the regime in Tehran, in Iran. The Biden administration is going to have a very difficult time in the medium to long term explaining its policies with respect to Iran. I think as we think about where U.S. policy goes over the next year or so in the context of a presidential race, the topic of Iran is going to be very much in the lead. And how will those who would like to be the next commander-in-chief of American forces handle the question of Iran and its role in the Middle East? It's a very malign role in hurting U.S. friends and allies and our interests in the region.
And Mr. Munson, you just hit on two things there, talking about the role of Iran, and we do have information that suggests that Iran may have been the location that allowed those who attacked on October 7th to train in Iran and get the practice and training that they needed in order to perform those attacks. Also with that, we also learned from Dr. Ansari that it is possible that some of the hostages being held are not all being held by Hamas, and all of them may not be alive. That the list we have is what he's saying there. We can guarantee that these 13 are alive. It is possible that there are names on a list and these hostages may not be alive, or they don't know where they are because they may not be being held by Hamas.
Right, and I think that goes to the point that we really need to keep our expectations low here. This is a very difficult, emotional question, of course, particularly for the families of those who are involved, for Americans who may have relatives in Israel or in the region who are impacted by this. This is a very fraught topic. I think it's important we keep expectations low. There's going to be some bad news on this at some point, probably in the near future. So it's cautionary tale to not be too hopeful.
Lester Munson, let's listen in once again.
Not on the ground, which is always a handicap for overseeing the deal itself. What is happening right now is that the operations room here in Doha has direct lines of communication with the political office here in Doha of Hamas and with the Israeli side and with the Red Cross, and it's all happening in real time where we are monitoring everything that happens, any report that might come in of any breach, any report about the hostages, any additional information that we can relay between the three sides that we are working with, along with our partners in the region, including Egypt and internationally, including the United States, so we can make sure that we immediately jump in to continue our mediation work and to make sure that we troubleshoot any issue that might arise on in the ground. So the operations room is very instrumental, and working with those parties I mentioned is very instrumental to make sure that the deal goes through the way it was agreed upon. Yes, Stephen.
You said that 13. You said that 13 hostages will be released tomorrow. How many Palestinian prisoners will be released tomorrow in the first?
I'm not aware of that piece of information right now. We will come to you with it. But as I said, it's a reciprocal deal, so we're expecting a release to happen, and this will be announced, in the similar time frame.
But that list has been.
Yes, the lists. Yeah. So the lists have been approved. They have been given to both sides. The Palestinians have the list of those who will be released from Israeli prisons, and the Israelis have the list. The Mossad has a list of the hostages that will be released from Gaza for the first day.
So I'm not sure why the number isn't clear.
That's the information I was briefed upon, okay. And with the current situation, sure. You have to allow me some leeway in not knowing everything at all the time.
Can I just follow up on the
sure,
ICRC information that Stephen was asking about earlier on? You've had two proofs of concept, effectively. The release twice of 2 female prisoners. So 4 prisoners have been released in 2 separate releases. And the ICRC obviously operationalised those releases. So I know that you can't give us any detail on what's going to happen. You've said that twice now. But can we expect that the ICRC's involvement this time will be similar or the same as, and perhaps you can, use whichever term you think best expresses what's going to happen, because we have seen this before. So is it going to be similar to, the same as?
I would assume that as long as it's happening within the same parameters and in the same conflict and within the same situation, that it would, of course, fall into the same mechanisms. As I said, they are working with us in the operations room in real time. Their people on the ground will be ready to receive the hostages. I will have to stop at that and not mention any details regarding how the exchange is going to take place to maintain the success and the safety of the hostages also.
Can I just ask you, just on behalf of the people in the room here and journalists around the world, access into Gaza is limited to a very few working journalists at present. This is a humanitarian pause and the possibility of it being extended. I mean, has there been any conversation about allowing for journalists to get in on the ground? You've just expressed that you're not on the ground, and that's difficult in and of itself in this humanitarian pause and affecting the operation of this hostage release. So how about journalists getting on the ground? Have you had any discussions?
Well, I know that.
It looks like we may have lost that signal from that press conference. Again, that was the spokesperson out of Qatar talking about the negotiation deal being made to release 13 women and children for that to begin as soon as possible. I took a few notes. Joining me once again is Lester Munson, co-head of international practice at BGR Group, senior fellow at National Security Institute. You heard that press conference. I know we're running out of time, but can you tell me a little bit of what you took away from what Dr. Ansari just said?
Well, as you know, as for the American audience here, important to note that the Biden administration has been instrumental in these conversations, speaking directly with the Israeli side, indirectly with the Hamas side, working with the Qataris. And I think folks need to give a lot of credit for the success of these talks to President Biden and his team. They've done some really good work here, very difficult, very emotional situation, incredibly complicated on the ground. And they seem to have an achievement here that is notable. Of course, it's happening on Thanksgiving, and we should all be thankful for that. But again, really difficult to make to pin too many hopes on future actions here. This is very fraught. It happens in the context of Israel needing militarily to eliminate the threat from Hamas. So any future events are going to be determined by how it impacts that military situation.
And Lester Munson, we do know that we took away from that press conference that the Red Cross will be involved in receiving those hostages. It looks as though that press conference is over. Israel-Hamas truce begins at midnight tonight Eastern time. Hostages release begins at 9 a.m. Eastern on Friday. And the first group of freed hostages will include 13 women and children. Lester Munson, I want to thank you again for joining me this morning and walking us through everything that we were hearing there at that press conference.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you, sir. More news for America next.
Stay tuned to get this 5-piece ultra nonstick bakeware set free from Granite Stone. Are you tired of pots that burn, lids that don't fit, and pans that stick? You know you need a new set, but the prices are so high it makes you sick. Well, get ready for a kitchen full of the most durable ultra nonstick cookware at the most affordable price anywhere. Introducing Granite Stone Blue, the fast, easy way to cook gourmet family meals every day. Each piece of Granite Stone cookware is pressed from a solid aluminum disc for even heat conduction and coated 3 times with our durable ultra nonstick Granite Stone Blue finish. Granite Stone Blue is oven rated up to 500 degrees for outstanding roasting and come with vented tempered glass lids to prevent boilover. Plus, all Granite Stone cookware is 100% dishwasher and metal utensil safe. Look, you'd expect to pay up to $500 for a professional quality cookware set. But during this special TV introduction, you can get the Granite Stone Blue 12-piece set, not for $500, $400, or even $300, but for the factory direct price of just 5 easy payments of $49.95. And for everyone who orders today, we're going to drop 1 payment. You get it all for just 4 easy payments of $49.95. Granite Stone cookware is so durable, it comes with a 10-year warranty. As a bonus, we'll include our self-draining fry basket, stainless steel steamer insert, and the steamer rack, a $50 value, absolutely free. And there's even more. As a special gift, you'll get our 5-piece Granite Stone Blue bakeware set, the fast, easy, ultra nonstick way to bake up your favorite desserts. No grease or oil needed. Together, they're a $110 value. Yours free. That's an incredible 20-piece Granite Stone Blue set, all for just 4 easy payments of $49.95. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free. Order now.
To order, call 1-800-916-4280. That's 1-800-916-4280, or order online at granitestoneblue.com.
Have you thought about updating to a walk-in bath? Walk-in Bath Club offers the finest quality products on the market today. Call and schedule a free, no-obligation quote for your walk-in bath now. Walk-in Bath Club brings you ease and comfort in having one of the lowest step-in height units available. And just imagine whirlpool and massage jets creating a relaxing spa-like experience right in your home. Call now and get $1,000 off your walk-in bath plus low monthly payments with this exclusive TV offer. With a brand new walk-in bath, you can unwind and relax using powerful hydrotherapy along your legs, feet, and spine while staying warm with heated back, neck, and shoulder surfaces, all at the touch of a button. Walk-in Bath Club gives you a modern and luxurious experience, installed in as little as a day and backed by a lifetime limited warranty. So call Walk-in Bath Club and get $1,000 off your walk-in bath and low monthly payments now. For a free quote,
call 800-431-9296. That's 800-431-9296.
Welcome back. Here's a look at some of the other headlines you'll be discussing around the Thanksgiving table. The FBI releasing new information about the shooter at a Walmart in Ohio after finding the gunman's journal. They say he may have been inspired by racist, violent, extremist ideology. He opened fire Monday night, injuring 4 people before killing himself. The FBI says he bought his weapon just 2 days earlier from a store in the Dayton area. The IRS is delaying a tax reporting requirement again for people who received more than $600 through payment apps such as Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. The new regulation only applies to payments received through goods and service transactions. The change was intended to crack down on sellers trying to evade taxes by not reporting income. In California, a dozen puppies worth $100,000 were stolen from a pet shop in Gardena. That's near Los Angeles to the southwest. Now, video footage capturing that moment, 4 masked men break into the store, grabbing the puppy cages and putting them inside the back of a van. The shop owner is offering a reward for anyone who can help police track down the dogs.
I think this guy found my ring.
Yeah, now to a long-lost ring union. 7 years ago, Derek Norman was cheering on the Buffalo Bills at a game. When he lost his ring, it went flying off his finger. Now, after an extensive search, he left empty-handed. But Bud Bristol, a Jets fan at the game, found it on the ground and held onto it for safekeeping. Fast forward to a few weeks ago when Bristol mentioned the find to one of his customers who actually knew a friend of Norman's. He connected the two. Now, Bristol returning it just before this week's Bills game against the Jets. Such a sweet story. Now, golf legend Tiger Woods and son Charlie will play in the PNC Championship again for the 4th year in a row. Despite injuries, this 36-hole event is one tournament Woods has not missed because of his favorite partner. The PNC Championship is scheduled for December 16th and 17th in Orlando, Florida. Listen, we know that you have a lot of choices in the morning for your news. I am so honored that you chose to make Morning in America part of your morning programming this Thanksgiving Day. I hope that each of you have an opportunity to tell those whom you love how grateful you are. I plan to do that myself. And I'm super excited to send this over to my friend Brooke Schaefer, who is filling in for Marni Hughes this morning, here to continue our coverage on NewsNation Live. Brooke, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
Oh, Nick, happy Thanksgiving to you. Sending you a big hug today. Thanks so much. As he said, I'm Brooke Schaefer in for Marni Hughes. We've got a lot of news to get to.